So again, if you just joined us, this is basically a tool that you could use to scale any type of advocacy action that you're using to target elected officials. You can just put in your, if you're trying to target people in your state, for example, people can just go ahead and put in their address and it'll send a personalized letter to every single one of their representatives, like of the different levels of government that you're targeting, right? So if you want to learn more about this, please go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll, when you sign up for module 5, or actually I'll also do like a follow-up email after this. But yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and put in the chat. Otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and dive right into how to manage an effective team. So before we go into things, I wanna remind everyone to go ahead and put your team name. If you're part of a team, put in a uniform team name so I know who is in which team. And then if you're in a chapter-based organization like MSP or Fridays for Future, go ahead and put like the site so that I can make sure that all of the members of a particular chapter is going to be in the same group. And if you don't have a team, no worries. Just keep your name as is, and we'll make sure to partner you up with another team that is working on their leadership structure as well. And then if you're facilitator, if you wouldn't mind putting facilitator in your title, that would be great. So any questions about how to do your team name? So I see already like Madrid has FFF Verona, like shouting that out as an excellent way of identifying what chapter you're with a given organization. Michaela, if you can say what MSP you're with, that would be really helpful. And yeah, make sure everyone in your team has the same group name so that we can get that process easily set up. All right, so wait, I'm gonna pause for like 10 seconds in case anyone has any questions about teams. Cool. All right, so moving on to our workshop goals and introducing our facilitators, our main facilitators for this workshop. We also have breakout room facilitators who you'll meet in the breakout rooms. So our goals for this particular workshop is to talk about the importance of relationship building when it comes to recruiting and managing a team. Sorry about that. Okay. And then we're also going to learn the 5 building blocks for successfully managing an effective advocacy team. So you all know me, but again, my name is Anika Manzoor. I'm the Executive Director of the Youth Activism Project. I'll be facilitating the first sort of third of the workshop today, and then I'm going to pass it off to Luca and Sonia, who will go ahead and introduce themselves now. So maybe Luca, you could start.
Hi, everybody. My name is Luca. I am a rising senior at Albert Einstein High School. I'm a member and co-founder of MoCo Students on Climate. I founded a mentorship program focusing on ESOL students at my former middle school. I'm a member of Students Towards Equitable Public Schools and an educational policy deputy on Montgomery County Regional SGA. So I guess that lends me some credibility to talk about team management, but definitely not, I don't know everything about it, but I hope to transfer some of the skills that I've picked up. And yeah, Sonia, if you'd like to go next.
Definitely. Hi, everybody. I'm Sonia, and I'm going to be your second co-host, I guess, for this meeting. And I've been involved since 8th grade. And back in 8th grade, I started as a community partnership director at MCJC, which is a middle school countywide SGA. And then and now it's my second year in MCR, and I'm a community relationships director. And as well, I'm a PR co-lead for Students Towards Equitable Public Schools and more student advocacy organizations. So hopefully I also have some credibility, but if not, Luca can definitely help me out.
All right. So let's dive right into the workshop today. And I want to just emphasize this workshop will have slightly less breakout rooms. So it'll be a little bit more lecture based than normal. And so to keep kind of like the dynamism and all of that, I really want to emphasize the chat should be popping a lot today, hopefully. Like Luca said, no one's like, when it comes to effective team building, like everyone has something to bring to the table, right? Like, you have some best practices that you get from experience, but that doesn't mean that there are never new ways to try, like how to effectively manage a team. So if you have anything that, as you're going through the content, if you have any insights, any other best practices that you want to uplift, I'm sure we'll have time for some verbal feedback, but if we don't, during the moments that we don't, please go ahead and put those insights in the chat and we'll go ahead and uplift those as well. So, and then let's talk about, why this module is relevant, right? Luca, actually, do you want to talk about the slide?
Yeah, I got it. I apologize in advance. My cat is making a lot of noise in the background, but anyways, so in the recent months, there's been an influx of youth-led activism groups centered on education and equity, racial justice, police reform, etc. And there's also a large movement around climate change and a myriad of other issues. So in light of the resurgence of the BLM movement, lots of young people are getting involved and taking to the streets, but are also organizing around issues that need to be addressed on the structural level. And this advocacy takes a lot of work, and it's easy to put all of your energy into 1 week of hardcore organizing and activism. But understanding team management and effective leadership structure is critical to building a sustainable movement and building a team, a sustainable team with committed members. And although some projects are meant to be short-winded and narrowly focused, others seek to expand their network and branch out. And so I know there's probably a wide range of students with different backgrounds, with different project ideas, and that's okay, but this is just really focused on general skills that you can apply to your leadership.
All right. So let's move on to as you're kind of thinking about team building and even recruiting for your team, right? Because I think a lot of y'all might not even have a team yet. You really need to remember that relationship building is at the core of effective activism and community organizing. Like, if you don't have good relationship building skills, it's going to be really, really hard to affect the change that you need to make. Because remember, if we go back to our first ever workshop in this series, we talked about how people power is what drives change. It's what drives policy change, right? Like massive amounts of people saying they want something to happen. And so you can't get that people power if you're not really good at relationship building. So this part of the module will be all about how you can effectively build those relationships when you're recruiting. And recruiting is something that you're going to find you're going to have to do over and over again in order to build power in your movement. So now we're going to talk about the art of the organizing one-on-one, or like one-on-one conversation. That is really the way that you're building these relationships. You're building trust. So can I maybe like ask someone in the participant list, is anyone having like an upcoming meeting or an upcoming action that they'd like to share with the group? Or folks, is recruiting something that anyone's like thinking about right now? Maybe like raise your hand or something.
I'll volunteer.
Yeah? Okay, go ahead, Luca.
Yeah, so we're currently on break, but we are working on recruiting members and representatives for each school to STEPS. So yeah.
So what is your specific ask? I guess you have multiple asks, right? What is one ask?
One is just like to be a member, I guess.
To be a member?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, and by being a member, the expectation is like coming to the meetings or?
Yeah, like coming to meetings, like contributing to, like the projects and stuff.
Okay, cool. So let's use Luca Bad's example of like just like asking people to like having a one-on-one with someone to join steps, right? And just become a member, right? So I'll use that as a framework to kind of go through what these best practices are. You want to start with people that are at least like mildly interested, that you know would be interested in. So STEPS works on education equity. So someone who like, is either social justice inclined or has been following this like controversial boundary analysis that's been going on in our county. You start with those kinds of people, right? And then you can talk about how, maybe say like, hey, I've noticed you posted about something, or, I've noticed you made this comment at this event or something. I'd love to know more about like what kind of work you've been doing in education equity, or like, why you're so passionate about this issue, and then have them share that, right? And then you can also share your story. Remember, we did some storytelling work in module 2. So tell them why you like, kind of riff off of what they're saying and say, yeah, I'm actually passionate about the same thing. This is why, this is my story. This is why I care about it so much. And so it's great. Like, and then you could transition and say like, well, it's great. It seems like we're both really passionate about this. I'm actually part of STEPS. Would you like to be a member? Better yet, would you like to come to our next meeting on like XYZ time and date, right? And so what you're really trying to get out of these one-on-ones is a specific ask, right? And a specific verbal commitment that yes, I'll be there. And if they really can't be there, then you ask them, who else do you know would be interested, right? And if someone says I can't make it, don't let them off the hook, right? Ask them why. I guess that's a point that I have, and I'll update this after. I'll make sure to be like, ask why, and like use persuasive tactics to tell them, no, you really should be there, right? Like if it's a time commitment thing, be like, well, is this thing priority for you, or is this thing priority for you, And if people are like really wishy-washy and they're really hesitant to commit to something, just tell them, come to the first meeting, see if you like it, and there's no commitment. Just come to the first meeting. That's like the best way to tell people, like, like just don't stress out about it. We just want you to see what it's about. And then and always end with like, can you bring a friend? And if they say yes, ask them like, can I ask like who you're thinking about bringing? The more you could get to specific asks, the better. So does anyone have any questions before we do a role play activity to see how recruitment plays out in the real world? Or does anyone have any other suggestions for what to add to this list of best practices? Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Wait. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and dive right into a role play. Do we have anyone else would like to maybe volunteer and practice these recruiting skills? And I'll go ahead and put that slide back so you have it. But yeah, does anyone want to practice recruiting and is willing to get some positive and constructive feedback? And then Zoe put maybe add seeing if they've done anything like it before. That's a good, like, ask them, like, have you been a part of any activist groups for the particular issue? Yeah, that's a really good one. Any volunteers? We don't have any volunteers. Luca Bed, would you like to be a volunteer?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Alex is asking, what do we mean by role play? We're just going to basically see how recruiting can work in the real world. So Lukabed is going to try to recruit Meraki to join Steps. So, and make sure, this is like a conversation, right? So, Lukabed, can you see Meraki on your screen?
No, wait, I can't.
Can you see me if I talk? I don't know. I think it comes up to the front.
You might want to pin her video.
All right. Let me. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys good? Can you see each other?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, apologies to everyone else. You might be able to I think if they talk, everyone else, I'll put myself on mute, and if they talk, you should be able to see them. So apologies for the weird technological stuff, but yeah, Lukabed, take it away.
Wait, I'm sorry. I can only see her since I pinned her.
That's fine, yeah. You're talking to Meraki, so you don't have to worry about anyone else.
So am I supposed to introduce my organization just for
just kind of start a conversation. My recommendation is, hey, how are you doing? I've noticed that, you've done X, Y, and Z for Ed Equity. Can you tell me a little bit about why you're so passionate about it, and then go into your story, and then go into talking about Steps. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. Hi, I recently saw that you've been interested in educational equity. I am part of an organization that kind of works towards equitable education in Montgomery County, and was wondering if you would like to join.
Yeah, that seems like something pretty interesting, but what would I have to do if I joined? I play 3 sports, so I can't really be there every day of the week,
I just recommend coming to meetings and see how it goes from there. Personally, when I first joined, it was that I had the same issue. I had other commitments, but was very passionate about educational equity and saw it fitting into my schedule, or made it fit into my schedule somehow. But I just recommend just coming and seeing how it goes.
Do you have any meetings coming up that I could join or go to?
Yeah, I mean, we have reoccurring meetings on Sundays. We're currently on break, but I do recommend that you sign up or just keep updated with our social media, just to know when upcoming meetings are.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
All right.
Folks can hop off of mute and give both Meraki and that snaps. That'd be great. And so if anyone wants to hop off of mute, and you could also put it in the chat, what are some things that went well in that recruiting scenario? So Luca said that Lukabed also related by saying that she played several sports, so she understood the time commitment. So yeah, having that relational piece is super important. Anything else? So Avery said the specificity. Sadie talked about, being flexible with other commitments.
She didn't let her off the hook.
She didn't let her off the hook. Yeah, right? Yeah, so she successfully convinced her to come, even though she had a lot of commitments. Anything any recommendations you have for Lukabed to make it a more seamless recruitment process?
Maybe instead of saying how she says a lot. Like when I usually do it for my organizations, I use the fact that like nobody knows what I'm talking about better than the people who are already doing it. So you should try to be more confident because you know the information best because you're the one recommending it to someone else, you know? You know it better than she does. So try to be like more confident when you speak.
And that comes with practice also. Like the more that you do this, the more that's a really good point, right? Like remembering that you're an expert here because you've been doing this work, but also not being too hard on yourself and recognizing that there's a lot of room for growth, I think is important. Avery, do you want to elaborate on the point that you just put in the chat?
Sure. So as I've been learning about how to do one-on-one calls, and I think you talked about this too, Anika, you should talk about your story of self and like how you kind of got into whatever activism that you do, because if you share like why you're passionate about it, it leaves another space for the other person to connect to you and really just like understand where you're coming from, and kind of it gives them more of like a buy-in because they really understand like why you're doing it, and they might be doing it for the same reasons, which like connects you and makes them feel like more inclined to like be a part of it.
Yeah, no, I second that. And I think really starting off the conversation, even before going into what you're doing, going into why you're doing it and trying to get why they're interested, I think is setting that stage a little bit more is something that I would recommend as well. So I'm glad you brought that up, Avery.
Allie in the chat brought up a really good point about making sure that you tell a little bit more about your organization, and I definitely second that because Lukabet didn't mention the word steps, but I'm sure she would do it over the chat or something, but it's definitely an important point to tell you and elaborate more about your organization.
Awesome. Lukabet, do you have any like closing thoughts on this?
Yeah, I definitely took a lot from those comments, and I guess if I was kind of nervous, I'm gonna be honest, but I could have said on the organization itself, but yeah.
And for the first time, you did a really excellent job. So I'm gonna give snaps to you again. And Lulit, are you comfortable with doing a second role play just so that folks can really see how this works?
Yes.
And so Lulit is going to be recruiting Meraki to join. Lulit, you want to talk a little bit about Youth Up Health and what that you've been doing with that organization?
Sure. So when I was in high school, I helped co-found with Wendy actually a group called Youth Uplifting Health. Basically was a core coalition like as a part of Sugar Free Kids Maryland to emphasize youth health and wellness in teens within our high school and within the county in general. And since I helped co-found the group, a lot of what we did initially the first year was like figuring out, brainstorming how to recruit new people and how to get people interested in something that we didn't really talk about in our high school prior to that organization. So yeah.
All right, so Lulit is going to be recruiting Meraki to join the Youth Up Health. So Lulit, go ahead and take it away.
Hey Meraki, how are you?
Hey Lily, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I saw the other day you posted on your Instagram story a flyer about diabetes awareness. Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, it actually is. A childhood friend of mine had diabetes, and a lot of people at school didn't understand what that was like for her. So I feel like that's an important issue to get awareness for.
So it sounds like you're interested in the awareness of diabetes in youth since it's not really talked about in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I actually am helping co-found a group called YA, or Youth Uplifting Health, within my high school, within our high school. We're basically trying to get people interested and get a lot of people coming to our orientation meeting, basically to focus on the topics of student mental health and physical health. A couple things we're focusing on is the issue of water quality within our school and the health of student lunch. But for our first meeting, we're just trying to get people interested and more informed on the topic. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, but is that like an everyday thing? Because I have a lot of other commitments and I play sports and I'm in clubs and stuff, so I can't really commit to it too much.
So we meet at least once or twice a week, but for our orientation this Monday at 2 p.m. during lunch, it's basically just a meeting where people can come and go, and you can bring as many people as you want, basically to figure a little bit more about our mission and what we're doing. Are you able to make it on Monday?
Yeah, I think I'll be there for at least the interest meeting on Monday.
Great. So if you ever can't come to a meeting, just speak to me, and we can figure out your hours, and I can basically brief you over the phone about what we talked about. And hopefully you can bring maybe 1 to 3 people to the first meeting that you think would be interested.
Yeah, I could do that.
Great. See you there.
All right. So for the interest of time, we won't debrief that one, but I will say that like Luli, I really loved how you asked Meraki to talk. You very explicitly shared like, this is how I saw you engage with this issue, and you asked her to share her story, which I thought was really, really powerful. If you could also share why you care about it too, I think that would have made that a little bit of a stronger exercise. Anyone else have, I know like just one last thought on what Luli did well and what she could have improved? Anyone want to share? We also have Lynn put in the comments. Lynn, do you want to expand on your comment?
Yeah, just really briefly, I think one of the things I've always found is really helpful, and you all have highlighted this too, especially in the first role play. You may be talking to people who are just as committed, overcommitted as you all are, because you all do 1,000 things and you're running in all kinds of different directions all the time. And it can really help when you figure out from somebody what they're really passionate about, or what their unique talents are. Maybe they're great with media. Maybe they are very artistic and love to create, visual imagery. Maybe they're really good at organizing and keeping other people on track. Everybody has talents, and everybody has unique talents. And when you can, draw that out of somebody and then show them how their really uniqueness can be so incredibly important to moving your work forward. And then you ensure that the people that you're bringing on board with you are doing things that they really love to do, which is one way to make sure that they've realized their importance to what you're doing, but then also you don't lose them because they're doing something that they really feel comfortable doing, and they really feel they really feel they excel at. And it's easier than when you're asking people to do things that are more generic or that maybe they're not comfortable doing.
That's great. Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, I really want to emphasize when as you're thinking about who you're recruiting, also think about what are the talents that they have, right? And then that can kind of help you get that diversity that's necessary for your group. Great. So any last questions before I pass it on to Sonia to talk about managing an effective team?
I think it's important to highlight about this one that you don't always have time to call every single person one-on-one, and maybe the first wave of recruitment can just happen over Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. But when you're looking more like one-on-one people, and you really are further in your career, that could be definitely much more helpful to find those people one-on-one. And these recruitment practices work not only if you're the lead of the organization, but also if just your friends or your peers that you want to welcome and make them join the team.
Those are all really great points. The one thing I will say is that having these one-on-one conversations is the most effective way to not just recruit, but also retain people, because that's how you're building trust. I definitely agree that Instagram, social media in general, texting, etc., those are all really great recruitment tactics as well. But I will say up front, they're not as effective as the one-on-one aspect, because it's hard to build that kind of trust, especially with people that you're not that familiar with. But 100% to what Sonia said about you as leaders, shouldn't be the only ones engaging in these recruitment tactics. It should be everyone in your organization that needs to be trained on how to do one-on-one conversations and one-on-one organizing, because as I said, this is really the building block of effective activism and community organizing. If we had time, we could spend a whole 2 hours on this thing alone, but due to time, we're just keeping it to like 20 minutes. And so I really encourage you to take this art seriously, because it is an art, right? And to not just and to share this particular knowledge with everyone else, because that is how you can scale recruiting, right? So like, you recruit 10 people, train 10 people on how to have one-on-ones, they recruit another 10 people, that is 100 people right there. It's 100 additional people to the 10 that you originally recruited, right? And so that is exactly how you build power. Any last thoughts or questions before we move on? All right, Sonia.
Yep. Can you just go a little bit further? Yeah. And about recruitment also, I was recruited to all the organizations like that. I know I just had my friends text me, you're interested in this, and that's how I got into leadership at all. So it's definitely important. So here are the 5 keys to success that we really need to ace and that we're going to elaborate a little bit more on. So Anika, if you can click on it. So the first one is the clear leadership structure, and then we have transparent task management, effortless communication, regular follow-up, and finally the morale boosting. All of them are super important, and now we're going to go a little bit more in depth about why they are so important. So if you can go next, and then Luca can take over the clear leadership structure.
Yeah, so the first key to success is having a clear leadership structure for your organization or group. And although leadership structure can be a difficult and kind of complex thing to come up with, like when you're starting a project, because you may not have people along with you to create it, it's crucial to preventing yourself from burning out and from making your group as effective as possible. Next slide, please. Could you click it? Oh wait, is that? Yeah, could you click it? Yeah, okay, so let me go to the slide. So there are 3 general leadership structures, you're good, that a lot of youth organizations tend to follow. And obviously there are some more unique ones, but these are like the main 3.
Hey, sorry, Luca, I'm gonna have to stop you because it's hard for me to share my slide and also do breakout rooms. So I'm gonna enable you to share your screen. Do you mind?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry about this, folks. All right, you have capability to share your screen, so why don't you?
Let me figure that out. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me present it. Oops. Okay, so here we go. So the first one is I'm the leader, and that's essentially we have one main leader and everyone around listens to what the leader has to say. The leader delegates tasks to all of these people, and these people all, listen to what the leader has to say, and then they go out and do their own things. So does anybody have any ideas of like what are some problems with this type of structure? If they want to like raise their hand in the chat or just call out briefly.
Zoe, go ahead. You raised your hand.
It's not more of a team thing. It's more of a like, I'm making all the decisions and telling you what to do. And like also one of my teammates, Lily, said it puts a lot of stress on one person to make and figure out everything when it should be equally distributed amongst everyone.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And at some points, this type of leadership structure fosters an environment for the leader to become bossy. And obviously that kind of is based on personality too. but this kind of structure sometimes lets that happen. So that's not the best structure. It can work in some instances, but yeah, let's move on to the next one. The next one is we're all leaders. I think you can see that there are some clear problems with this one. One of them being that there's no executive function whatsoever. Well, there could be, but that's also a problem because one part of it is that certain leaders can take up more responsibility and other leaders can kind of lack and not do as much work and kind of just fade away. And there's not one leader that kind of oversees everything and who can kind of hold people accountable. So there's not really like an oversight function. So there's a clear problem with that one. And the third one we go to is Snowflake. So we have, and this is the leadership structure that a lot of very effective and multifaceted organizations follow. You generally have one leader. It's possible to have co-leaders, even though that can kind of make things more complex, but it can be good in some cases. Then you have committees and you have like committee heads, depending on how many branches you want to have. And you have members who listen to the committee heads. And so does anyone want to call out like why they think this is a good structure?
I can definitely tell you that also the we are all leaders structure is very hurtful, can be really hurtful because people have troubles trusting a big group of people. Rather, when you have one person or a couple of people in the leadership structure, people have someone to relate to. It's like, oh yeah, I know that Avery is the head of STEPS and I trust Avery, so I trust STEPS. But it's harder to trust like 50 members because you don't know all of them.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. So for Snowflake, Snowflake is, let me click that thing. There we go. Snowflake is the best leadership structure. We have one person in the middle who is the kind of serves as the executive function. And that person, along with the co-leads, kind of serve an oversight function, and they look into what the other committees are doing to make sure that everybody is on task. So they're not actually doing any committee work themselves because that would get way too burdensome. But yeah, essentially they're working to see that everyone's on task, that they're making sure everyone is fulfilling their responsibilities. So that's the most effective structure, and to make sure that different groups have different tasks and the leader is not burdened, the co-leads are not burdened, and same for the members. And here are just some effective organizations and their respective leadership structures. Sonia, do you want to go over Mocha for Change and MCR just quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Mocha for Change, it's a huge organization. It has more than 60 members, I think. But in order to kind of lead all of it, they have president, VP, secretary, and several exec board positions that lead the project. And then the large membership just focuses on different things and helps create the organization it is. And then MCR, they have 4 officers who are elected, and then they have an executive board, which is now 100 people, and it has, I believe, a couple of department heads which control each department and its productivity. But overall, the membership is 100 people. But all of them are elected or selected among the application group.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm part of Mocha on Climate, so I can kind of speak to that. Mocha on Climate is kind of an advocacy anomaly. There's not really a formal leadership structure. We kind of conceptualized the organization 2 summers ago, and it was like a group of people that I hadn't met before. It was like 10 people. We all got on a call and we just started talking, and we kind of formed an organization. So there wasn't really like an appointed leader or a co-leader or committee chairs. So it's kind of like decisions are made in an informal group discussion style. So it's not as effective as possible, but it's fairly effective given that we've all become close, and there's a small membership and a narrow focus. So in that sense, like a smaller leadership structure and one that's kind of more informal and fluid can be effective. But obviously, like for a big organization like Mocha for Change or MCR-SGA, that would not work. Avery, since you're the president of Mocha STEPS, would you like to speak briefly about their leadership structure and why it's effective?
Sure. One thing too, I like to call myself like a co-lead because I try to keep it as like egalitarian as possible, and president feels just like weird to me. I don't know, but that's just like my preference. And I think so our structure, yeah, I guess it's similar to like a snowflake where you have like one formal leader and several co-leads. And I think this works really well because, as I said, like in the chat, it's that perfect combination where you have people with leadership roles and you reward those who can like get the work done, and come to all the meetings, and that like has more buy-in, but at the same time, you don't have so many leaders to the point where it's like disorganized. And I just really like the structure because I've found that it creates like a more egalitarian field than, say, like we talked about, like having one leader.
Yeah, thank you, Avery. Yeah, that's a great point. It's if you're not a huge organization like MCR SGA, it's kind of weird to like become a president if you're not, if like elections aren't held. So Avery's point to that was, yeah, spot on. Okay, yeah. So Sonia, do you want to do this one, or like half of it at least, the left side?
Absolutely. So I think that it ties into a clear leadership structure. And for me, it's very important to always set values at the first meeting so everyone knows that everyone's on the same page. And on the left, you can see the department values that my community relations department in MCR has. And I took those from my home values, the ones like my parents taught me, like trust, transparency, equality, respect, hard work, and all of this are super important. So if you want to, in the chat, pop some values that are and norms that are important to you. I'm not saying that these values are the ones, they're just the ones that kind of help me and help my deputies. And we've been already together for 3 months, and it really helped because trust, they like everyone's kind of equal, and trust is very important because if they have any problems, they text me or my co-lead at like Simon tell right away. Yeah, let's go with that word, right away, because and that just raises so many problems and miscommunications.
Yeah, definitely. So similar to values, there are also norms and expectations for your organization or branch of an organization, like Sonia mentioned. So for norms and expectations, it's important to set these at the beginning of the year or like in one of your earlier meetings. So the members of the organization have a strong foundation and understanding of community agreements. And this is also really essential to helping avoid misunderstandings and miscommunications. So it's not that difficult to set norms. All you have to do really is allot 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of a meeting to brainstorm and outline norms or expectations. If you're on Zoom, you can have a shared doc. You can be like, okay, people just write down what you think. What are some norms and expectations that are important to you? Or if you're in person, you can have a big white sheet of paper and just write down stuff on there. And some examples are having a safe space, meaning no judging, confidentiality when personal stories are shared, one mic, so one person talks at a time. So it kind of prevents it from getting too anarchic. And then you have use I statements. So you're making sure that you're clear and direct during meetings. Step up, step back. And step up is like, if you're someone who tends to kind of refrain from speaking, it's important that you share your ideas and kind of build up the confidence to do so. But also if you're someone who likes to speak a lot, you can step back and let other people who don't always get a chance to get a chance. And then there's also go with the group flow, which is like if you're someone who tends to have very strong opinions and then the rest of the group is overwhelmingly against your idea at a certain point, it's important not to kind of impose your ideas and let the group kind of flow forward with theirs. And there are many others, but these are just a few ideas to get you guys thinking. And so this one is transparent task management. Sonia, is this yours or?
Yeah, that's mine. I can go with it. So this one is also very important, especially when you don't have such a hierarchy as an MCR, the structure that I'm most familiar with, but rather with more self-organized, and especially when you don't have an adult member who can coordinate you, it's very important that everyone knows what they're doing and when. So if you can go to the next slide. Some of the awesome project management apps, first one is Trello, but then also Asana is great. There you can use free versions. Also, sometimes you can use Slack to assign something. I personally, for communication, like Slack the most. And if you can go next. So in a chat, you can say why each of them are important, and then at the end, I'll kind of share out also. But first one, the most important one is it's super important to have a due date, and because if you don't give a due date, it can literally be months until something is done. So my favorite one is let's do it up to the next meeting, and the next meeting is like, is everything done? And that's the most useful one, rather than just some random Sunday or Wednesday. I personally use Google Spreadsheets in order to say the due dates, and people can just mark off, check when they're done, and then we go over it the next meeting. Next one is a specific person. Again, you don't want to just say out in the blue, let's do this, because no one is held accountable. So probably call out who's interested in this, and then maybe maybe they will be joined by 2-3 more people who are on this task. And now also it's very important to confirm and make sure at the end of the meeting, I like to go over it and just like make sure everyone knows their things, because over an hour, 2 hours meeting, it can be easily forgotten. Just like, yeah, Luca, make sure you do this. Yeah, we're good. Then if you can, yeah, attach files and task notes so people can reference at any time. Very important. Share it or put it in the shared Google Drive. And then, if applicable, people who will help just like to keep things in mind. Again, I'm saying like it's not that one person has to be responsible for anything. It can be 2, 3, 4 people if they're interested. And then identify a mechanism for task-related virtual discussion. Again, that's what I said, spreadsheets, group chats, whatever works for you. So if anyone wants to share out which one they think is the most important or why they're so important, go ahead. No? Then we can move on.
Okay, so oh, Anika, was that you?
Go ahead, Luca.
Okay, yeah, so we're gonna be doing a breakout session. It should only take around 15 minutes. And so what we're gonna be doing is creating a snowflake leadership structure for the people that are in the group. So hopefully if your actual like group / team is here, you can be in a breakout room with them and you can create a snowflake structure if you don't already have one, and then practice assigning tasks to each leader / officer that you identify. And just a few reminders, it's important to identify as many leadership positions as possible and to clearly label committees. So I think Anika is getting the breakout rooms ready.
Yep, breakout rooms are ready. I'm just going to go ahead and run through them really quickly so that we're copacetic for this. So Steps is going to be in breakout room 1 with Avery. You're just going to go ahead and facilitate that. Lalit is going to facilitate breakout room 2 with Janafis, and then also Allison Bennett as someone to observe how a real team is thinking about a snowflake model and leadership structure. Wendy's going to facilitate breakout room 3 with Fridays for Future Verona, and then we also have Alex and Abigail who aren't in teams but will benefit from that. And then breakout room 4 is with Sonia. That is DC Teens Action, along with Ava Cohn, Avery W, and Andrew McInnes. Breakout room 5 is Lynn facilitating YACE, or YACE, with Cleo and Annalise observing and also providing some insights as well. And then breakout room 6 is Meraki facilitating MSP, along with Stephanie Lazo. And then breakout room 7 is Luca facilitating the CT team along with Ellie, Zainabu. Yeah. And so is anyone that I said their name, meaning that you aren't in a team, are you in a team that I should put you in the correct breakout room? Okay, so it sounds like we're good to go. We're gonna be in breakout rooms for at least 15 minutes. And then around 4 p.m. Eastern, I'm gonna ask facilitators if they might need a little bit more time. So let's spend the first 5 minutes or so kind of getting to know everyone that's in the space. And then go into the thing. And yeah, if you're if your team wasn't able to make it, no worries. We hope that by being in a group with a team, you can also get some ideas on how to apply, the way that team is applying this theory to your own team. So any questions before I open the breakout rooms? Alrighty, and I'm gonna also, did we put the link of the slides in the chat yet? I don't think we
I don't
did.
think so.
Okay, so I'm gonna also go ahead and do that so you all have access. I just need to make sure that everyone can view it. All right, so I'm gonna put the link in the chat. And then make sure everyone clicks on that link so you have it. All right, and I'm gonna open the rooms now.
Hey guys.
Hello.
How's everyone?
Hi.
Okay, I guess I'll just start by introducing myself. I'm Luli. You guys probably are familiar with me from previous modules. Yeah, so I am Director of Partnerships and Outreach for the Youth Activism Project, and I am facilitating this group. If we can go around and quickly introduce ourselves. Lauren, maybe start with you.
Sure. Hello, my name is Lauren. I'm 17. I am going into my senior year of high school, and I'm passionate about mental health and special education reform.
Hello, Lauren. Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine. I am a rising senior in Maryland, Montgomery County to be specific. I am very interested in disability rights and ADA compliance and within my own school system. So yeah.
Catherine, I think we're going to be talking to you this Thursday for Activated Thursdays, right? Okay, very excited. Allison?
Yeah, I'm Allison. I'm 16, and I'm passionate about sexual assault rights and mental health.
Okay, great to meet everyone. So before we go into kind of the groups and the coalitions you guys are a part of, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I've used the snowflake structure because they didn't really do the best job at explaining it. So like they said, it's usually not the best approach to have an everyone is a leader type of thing where everyone in your group is supposed to, be some type of governing body. Like it's good to have some type of healthy structure where everyone has their own responsibilities. So I'll use the group I was mentioning earlier in the main room, Youth Up Health, as an example. So I, like I said, had helped co-found this group. Me and one other person had helped co-found it. And then we helped find our e-board and everyone else that was involved in our high school. But soon afterwards, we thought it was...
Sorry, can I ask a clarification question? Is Lucienne joining you guys?
Yes.
Do you know if she's look, she's in the main room, but I don't know if she's by her computer or not.
Oh, there she is.
Okay. All right. Keep going.
So, Lucienne, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. I'm Lucienne. What else should I say?
What you're interested in, the topic.
Disability rights. Like, isn't this? Yeah, this was the breakout room for it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just going over the snowflake model. Were you in the main room when we were talking about recruiting and the snowflake model?
Kind of. I was like, something had else needed my attention for a bit.
Okay, so I was just going over the snowflake model and just kind of talking about how in the coalition that you're starting up, it's not the best idea to have an everyone is a leader kind of mentality, and how you want to basically delegate different responsibilities and tasks, whether it be committees, etc., to different people. So I was giving an example of the group I started when I was in high school called Youth Up Health. And after I had co-founded it, me and the co-founder and our entire network of students, we basically spent the first week allotting different responsibilities to every person. So we had a president, and we made sure everyone knew that she was the president and that I was co-president, and that we had a lot of logistical and like clerical responsibilities that not everyone else had. And our e-board, whether it be communications and student outreach, they all had their respective responsibilities. And our founder or our organizer, who's at the center of the Snowflake, she was kind of there to just take notes and be our scribe for each meeting. And that was kind of how we did our structure. And everyone else who came to our weekly meetings was part of the outward little things of the Snowflake. You guys know what a snowflake looks like. So I kind of want to talk to you guys about where you are in the groups that you're a part of and how you've kind of implemented the Snowflake structure within that, if you have. If someone wants to go and volunteer.
I recently launched an account on Instagram, which is like not really the same as like an organization kind of thing, but like it's somewhat similar. And I originally was just gonna do it myself, but then I realized that I shouldn't be the only like, since I do not have disability, it's kind of, I should have someone who has a disability on the like a part of the page, so they could you know, be a voice as well. I shouldn't, since I don't have a disability, I shouldn't just be a voice for people with disabilities, if that makes any sense. So I started that account, and we kind of have like a thing where we don't really have really many positions. It's just kind of like I was the creator, and then we have some admin, and I mostly like decide what content we pump out, and then like our other people kind of decide how we're going to pump it out, and like how we're going to spread it, and how it's going to look like, and like how to so like I'm kind of at, me and another girl are kind of at the top, and then we kind of have just like different, we have like different people for like different things. Yeah.
So are you like in the center of that Snowflake, like administratively, you'd say?
Yes, like co something. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's just like a title, or you have like different responsibilities than everyone else?
I really just feel like it's just a title. It's just kind of because like people like as far as like on our Instagram page, we kind of just like did like a get to know us page, or like story kind of highlight thing. So it was just kind of just to say I was, but in reality, it's, since it was like my idea and stuff like that, I was like the creator, but we still, all of us pretty much have the same power in a similar way. But at the end of the day, it comes down to me. So we do have, it's not just like everyone deciding. Yeah.
I see what you mean. Okay, 9 more minutes. Okay, so I definitely agree with like delegating a certain amount of like autonomy and like responsibility to every person. There definitely still should be someone, like a point person to go to for any questions. Like that is the whole point of like the Snowflake model. But as far as like having different people with the same amount of like power, like of course everyone, there should be like no type of power dynamic or structure, anything like that. If anyone else wants to go about how you've implemented the Snowflake model in any group you've been a part of. Maybe we can start with Lauren.
Well, I don't really have my own organization, but I'm a part of different organizations. And then one of them that I'm a part of is called Celebrating Differences. And there's an executive, there's an executive board. And I'm on the executive board because my title is Illinois chapter lead, but then there are other people on the executive board who manage their own teams. And so like we're looking for hiring, and like they'll choose who they want on their team and stuff. But for the most part, we work together, and like we each contribute to different departments in a way, because sometimes I'll do research, or sometimes different people will do different things like infographics and stuff that's not necessarily their job, if that makes sense.
Are you looking to like start a group of your own or a coalition of your own?
I was thinking about starting my own campaign, but I'm not really sure how I would go about it. So pretty much I'm just trying to plan things right now, because I'm not really sure how I would even recruit people, because it's one other person who I know, she said that she would help me, but I'm not really sure how I would recruit people, and also I don't have an idea that's set in stone yet.
So hopefully you can refer back to this module on how to recruit people, since we talked about it and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But I think the e-board structure that you said you had in the organization you're a part of is very good. I just think, you know, you don't want to have titles, like you also want to have responsibilities. Like a lot of the time in when we were starting up, we had titles in our e-board, but everyone was just bouncing around doing different things. And I think it's super helpful to have someone like part of social media and someone who's going to do web design or infographics and someone who's going to be doing outreach and things like that. That really helps with the initial structure. So when you do recruit more people, you have structure. So like every single e-board member can, like, for example, maybe lead a committee and then recruit people for that specifically, just so, you know, it's not overwhelming for one person. Anyone else want to go next? Allison or Lucienne, I see you unmuted yourself.
Oh, yeah. So when I was in high school, I was part of a group called, I was part of a club called Empower. It was kind of a small club, so there weren't many positions. There were just like usually 2 co-presidents and a treasurer. I was co-president for 2 years. We did have a treasurer, but they didn't really do much because often there wasn't just a lot for the treasurer to do. But yeah, the idea was they would handle money, which they did do when the need arose. Also, right now I'm part of an organization for women's rights called New Gen. Yeah, so there are chapters, and I'm part of the LA chapter, and there are 2 chapter leads. There's a social media manager, a graphic designer, there are columnists, like, because it's kind of a blog, sort of, writing articles and stuff, and a photographer, and also an event planner / coordinator. And the event planner / coordinator basically searches for events for the members of the organization to attend, to learn more about different things, and will also plan events like hosted by New Gen if the time ever comes. So yeah, I'm event planner and I'm a columnist. I think that's it.
Do you feel like the snowflake model works well within New Gen?
It's too early. Well, it's really early because it's kind of new. I think, yeah, I think it does, because like because we make sure that we like divide the tasks respectively, and the chapter leads don't have so much to do.
It's really good that it's really early on, but you guys still have those specific responsibilities. I think that's a strong foundation. Allison, 4 minutes left. Okay, Allison.
Yeah, I'm not part of an organization or anything. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. So do you think you have a good idea of what the snowflake model is?
Everyone's a leader. Yeah.
So it's everyone's a leader type thing in terms of power dynamics, but it's kind of the opposite of that, in that you, like I said, want everyone to have specific responsibilities, and you want there to be some sort of responsibility structure so everything is more clear. So one example that I gave was, we have an organizer in the middle of the snowflake model. So for Youth Up Health in high school, that would have been the president of Youth Activism Project, who kind of told us we should start a group. And then around that would be like the co-leaders, which would be the president, the co-president, and everyone who leads the different committees. And then outside of that would be everyone else within the network. So everyone we recruited within the high school who are a part of different committees. So they would be joining like 2 meetings a month, whereas the other founders who were in the second tier of the snowflake structure would be meeting weekly to talk about the committees and the things that they've been doing. So there's different forms of the snowflake model, but that's kind of like what we came up with which is what worked best for us. But if you were going to start a coalition like surrounding disability rights, what do you think you'd want to structure that as?
If I were gonna start one, I think I wouldn't. I'm not sure how I would structure it. Just have like one central leader and then have a bunch of other leaders, I guess.
Catherine, are you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was thinking this. I've based on like not necessarily with just like advocacy, but just in general, I feel like the snowflake model I feel like works the best because it kind of you have essentially one point person, but you also have other people in leadership, so you're not super overwhelmed by your by everything, because that can be very overwhelming. So I think the snowflake model really works best, and I think it's important, especially when you're like advocating for a group, to have someone from that group in leadership position as well.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How do you make sure the head of whatever committee or group doesn't have too much responsibility piling on them?
I think it's good to like map out like first map out all the tasks that like tasks on a list, and that the club has to deal with, and then see which tasks are like closest to each other, and then group those tasks together, and then have people like sign up or apply or choose people to like that you think would fit those tasks.
I think, yeah, having designated roles and stuff like that. And there is this one quote that I heard, and I thought it was a really good quote. It was, a team is a group of people working towards the same goal while optimizing everyone's strengths and minimizing everyone's weaknesses. And I thought that was a really good quote. I don't know if I said that correctly, but I think, like, for example, for an organization I'm part of is Best Buddies, I am the president, but I'm personally not very good at handling money. So we have treasurers who do that and specialize in the fundraising and the money aspect of it. And so I think it's really important to, like Lucienne said, to have people with specific roles that are good at it.
I think that's a really, really good point. Specialization is definitely something that you should emphasize. A lot of the time when we were recruiting for Youth Up Health, and even steps too, like, people were like, I'm not good at public speaking, I'm not good at leadership, or I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. But you really need to emphasize the importance of specialization. So there's a lot of people that are probably not going to be prepared or ready to be like on the front lines, like in meetings with administration and things like that. But it's really important to know that there's a lot of people that work in the background, for example, like working on the websites, working on the social media, making flyers and things like that. So you need to make sure that everyone knows that there's a space for everything. And that's a really, really good way to like optimize recruitment and things like that. Does anyone else have anything to add onto that? No. Okay. So I think it's a good idea to talk about, since you guys are all for disability rights, like what are different kinds of committees that you could, for example, allocate to your e-board members that they could specifically recruit people for? So that would be a really good way to like allot different responsibilities to everyone. So like what kind of committees do you think you can make?
I think that with now, like everything being like virtual, like a social media person, like someone who's good at creating like graphics and stuff like that. Like, for example, for my disabled in Montgomery County, we have someone I give them all the information because I know a lot about it, and then they just put that information and make it look pretty and post it. And so having someone who's good at doing like things like that, I think it's important to have like a social media person, and even if they are not necessarily super invested in the cause, if they're like good with like decorating and stuff like that, like they would be interested in being in that role.
Well, expanding on that idea, since I guess we're talking about like committees within the group, there would be like just this social media committee, and there would be a head of the social media committee, and then there'd be another person that's like really good at graphics, another person who is like good at responding to people quickly, another person and like what do you call that, promoting things. Yeah, and just think, yeah, I think that's that's all. And then what else? There since everyone is like making a blog right now, I feel like there could be a team of writers, and then an editor and something, and then a research analyst slash fact checker to back up whatever they say.
So you just listed a lot of really good committees. Allison and Lauren, specifically you guys, since you guys talked about not starting your own group or not having experience with that, what kind of committees would you think would be good, like a natural second step after finding an e-board for a group?
One, like kind of what Lucianne and Catherine said, like a partnerships director, like if you want to like promote your organization or connect with other organizations or like have them help you, like I think that's a good thing to have, especially if you're just starting out and don't feel like you can do everything by yourself.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, since I do a lot in partnership. Oh, the breakout room is ending in less than a minute. So if you guys want to, I've been taking notes, I just don't have sharing abilities like for my screen. So if you want to drop your email real quick so I can share it with you guys in the chat. Also, one thing I want to emphasize is when you're starting a group, you are never going to find people who are as passionate as you are in the beginning. Like, I'm sure a lot of you guys know, like, you are not going to find people who are like die hard and like willing to put in the work as much as you are, especially since you're founding that group. And don't let that discourage you. Like Catherine said, specialization is really important, and they may never be as passionate as you are about the issue, but that doesn't mean they can't be like a really helpful asset to your team. So just consider that all the time when you're doing recruitment and when you're doing orientation and such. But your e-board definitely should probably be as passionate as you, just like the outward.
Hey all, welcome back. So we're gonna facilitate the next part of our debrief just by having a couple of groups, if they want to share out some insights that they talked about or any questions that folks have. So does any group want to start the breakout process or the breakout debrief process?
I can go ahead and start. It was very beneficial because like we got a chance to see because we had already sort of set up a snowflake stability for our leaders. And so it was fun and interesting to hear our facilitators' ideas on how we can improve it and ways that we can add to it to make it run better and run more smoothly, and a way so that when we're done and when we all eventually move on, that it can outlast and to continue to have a huge impact on what our main goal originally was.
Cool, thanks. So yeah, I think I'm glad you guys got there thinking about that long-term longevity, because that's really important, especially with student-led movements, because people are constantly graduating, right? Any other insights, questions people want to share?
Something I was really excited about with my group, we also pretty much have our leadership structure established, but we were just going back to thinking about like our intentions and having that structure, and like the whole point was it being egalitarian, so we were just thinking of ways to include people more and just like increasing that like culture. So that was really exciting.
Any specifics you'd like to share?
One idea I'm really excited about, we were thinking in the future we could have, so like giving people assignments to create like buy-in, and they like feel like more inclined to come to the next meeting. So just like telling people if they don't necessarily have an assignment, hey, can you like create the icebreaker for the next meeting? So just like something fun and light and chill, just to get them like doing something and feeling like involved.
Awesome. Well, if there are no other insights that folks want to share, Luca, do I hand it off to you or do I hand it off to Sonia?
So I'm doing the next slide, and then Sonia's doing the one after. Do you think you could share your screen again?
Yeah, I'll share my
So I can
screen.
see the speaker notes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What slide are we on? Effortless
Yeah,
communication.
18, yeah.
There you go.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so the third key to success, and this part of the presentation will go by pretty quick, but definitely feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have any. So the third key to success is effortless communication, and it's really important to speak with group members to make sure that you have good bonds in your team and that you can keep people engaged. Next slide, please. Sonia, I think this is yours.
Yep, absolutely. So as Luke already mentioned, it's super important to communicate with both audience, so people you want to reach out to, but also your members. So if you can click among team members, I think it's very important to share general info, to share any opportunities that you have, but also be task specific, as we already went through. And then can you click? With the public, there are countless ways to communicate. It's website, email, social media, text, and Anika went over the mass emailing in the beginning. So all of those work. You can go next. One example that I guess I have is Moco for Change, and we have one big group chat for the entire team, as you can see, the Moco for Change 2019-2020. But also when we're working on a specific initiative or specific advocacy, not to kind of get the general chat way too overheated, we just break off into the smaller not breakout room, but the smaller group chats. But Moco for Change, actually right now for the upcoming year, they have changed to Slack, but they still remain having one general chat, having one for announcements, and then have also small ones to break off, if you need to discuss certain issues. Next. And even though we already discussed how to make sure that everyone's welcomed, have clear leadership structure, all of that, nobody's perfect. Leaders are not perfect, members are not perfect, and any conflicts can rise up. So that's why in CR we have this anonymous feedback form, and you can just say that if you have problems with us as directors, or if you have problems among team members, and it really helps to resolve any conflicts very quickly.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through a process for conflict resolution and transformation. This is a process that is very important, and that a leader and an effective team manager should have to make sure that conflict is constructively dealt with, because conflict can ironically be a good thing, and it can make your team stronger, and conflict arises naturally. It's a very human thing, and it's something that makes sense in an organization that's dealing with very important social, economic, or political issues. So the first thing you want to do when a conflict arises is acknowledge the conflict. You want to address it. You want to address the people that are involved with it. The second thing you want to do is discuss the impact. As a team, you want to make sure that, you want to discuss the impact of the conflict on the team, how it's impeding performance, and how it's kind of deteriorating group dynamics. The third thing you want to do is agree to a cooperative process. Everyone involved must agree to cooperate to resolve the conflict. And that means, as a leader, putting the team first and making sure that you're setting aside your opinions if they don't, as I mentioned before, flow with the group. And the fourth thing you want to do is really agree to communicate. Throughout a conflict resolution process, open dialogue is extremely important, and the people involved need to talk about the issue and discuss their strong feelings, and this makes sure everybody knows where everyone stands, and that's very important to moving forward. And just as a note, active listening is a skill that needs to be had for group members. And the fifth thing is to clarify roles, whether there are obvious factions within the team who support a particular option, approach, or idea, whether it's addressing a certain issue or going about a certain action item. Each position needs to be clearly identified and articulated by those involved, so there's no ambiguity. And sixth, at the end of the process, it's important to convene and discuss as a team. So after the group dialogue, each side is more likely to be closer to reaching an agreement. So after you reach an agreement and discuss how to better deal with the situation, it's a good way to make sure that the same conflict doesn't arise again and that you have a process in which you can deal with it. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Yeah, so the fourth key to success is regular follow-up. You want to make sure that you're actively engaging your group members. So a few things you can do are check in often. Don't wait until the deadline until the deadline is too close. You want to make sure that you're checking in with people and just saying things like, how's it going? Do you need any help? Is there anything I can do? If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As I mentioned, yeah, ask how things are going. It's important to form kind of like a friendship. You want to make sure that people are comfortable with asking you for help, because some people can be shy and not want to ask, and then they'll just overburden themselves, and then the work won't be top quality. And yeah, offer if anyone's having help. So do that so they feel like they can ask you. And it's very easy for activist students to be very overwhelmed. They have schoolwork, probably a lot of other activities. So yeah, next slide, please. And then, yeah, so morale boosting, this is very important to, again, keeping people engaged and making sure that people feel good for the work that they've done. If you can go to the next slide. Sonia, I think this is yours.
Yep, and in order to boost morale, I would say that it ties into the regular follow-up. Make sure it's not only about work. In CR, we call our deputies every month to check in just their mental health and how they're doing, and it's absolutely, and through these kind of communications you find out that actually there are some problems in their families, at school or whatever, and partially we can help somehow, but also we can just give them a bit of time. So one of the deputies, his parents have a health concern, and he's like, well, can I not do work for a while? It's like, of course, yeah, you give them 2-3 weeks, because it is important to leave them out of it a bit. So in order to boost morale, it's very important to praise in public and coach one-on-one. Coach one-on-one, you just create a stronger bond, and praise in public, so people want to strive to that, and also they are acknowledged. Some of the ways to do it is give some kind of awards, I don't know, paper plates, whatever works for your people. And then praise team members for good ideas, hard work, and accomplishments. You shouldn't just tell them once a month that they're good. It can be like on a regular basis, or just text them, and it can be in any areas that they do, from art to activism, whatever. Give all credits to the team. As a team leader, it's very easy to say it's me, I, whatever, but MCR, me personally, taught to use we, and anytime something happens, I always say that we accomplished this, because it really is not about me as a person, but rather about the team. And then also team activities to celebrate major accomplishments, and that ties in also into some kind of activities like binge watching shows together, watching films, going out when it's possible, I don't know, going to the park, anything that's not about work, because then it creates a very tense relationships.
If I could just add something briefly before I go into the last slide, just about like regular follow-up and morale boosting. It's important if you notice that one of your team members is kind of not doing as much work as they signed up for, or kind of like yeah, I guess just like not staying in touch with you, or it's important, and you need to have the courage as a leader or another member to reach out to them and say, hey, blank, I see that you've been kind of not so active lately. Is there anything I can do to help? Or are you still committed? Like, obviously don't say like what I said, make it more like fluid and natural. But I think that's an important thing to do if you're a leader, and to make sure that you're constantly following up with group members.
Yeah, I definitely sounded too nice. If there are problems that arise, don't be scared to call people out, and it's better to do one-on-one, because if you in public say that you suck, probably person is not going to be happy to come back.
If I may add something to that as well, I think it's really important to also come with like a compassionate mindset, right? Like never assume that people are not doing something because they suck, right? Like always be like, hey, so I noticed, like, you know, you haven't been doing this, like, has it, you know, are there like if there are things that are going on in your life, like let me know, or like try to strike that balance between being compassionate but also firm and expecting accountability. And I think going back to the norm setting slide that we had talked about earlier, that's where you can really set communication expectations. So like if people like really set a culture where like people are communicating, if they're not able to do something, or if they seem like they've bitten off more than they can chew, like tell them that, you know, there's no shame in saying, I know I signed up for this and I'm sorry that I can't do it anymore, because at least that's still better than you saying you're able to do something and then sort of you know, dropping the ball on that, right? So tell, like, make sure that your teammates understand that it's always better to disappoint, like, with your like words saying you can't do something than like your actions, right? And so setting that culture is really important. And like as a leader too, you can always model that kind of stuff. And then yeah, oh okay, so Lynn actually is amendment to what I said. Like yeah, ask you know, start a hard conversation with, are you okay? Yeah, exactly right. So not what is wrong with you. Never personalize it, right? The thing about a lot of these conflicts or a lot of the accountability issues is that it's never personal. It's always, there's always an underlying reason, and that underlying reason is always valid. So remember to keep that in mind, while also having realistic and firm expectations at the same time.
Yeah, one last thing. In the more student activism, as we discussed right now, where it really is the bond between peers and people of the same age group, it is very important to have those good connections, and it is very important to be smooth, because those are basically people of your age and you can't come in bossy or anything. But like in an organization as MCR, which is very established and some may say bureaucratic, it's very important. We have a teacher advisor, and we can come to her if we have any problems, so we can reach a person. So that's just a different structure. And then also MCR has a process of impeachment if anything goes wrong, but it's a different structure when you have an adult in a room that can always resolve and come in from a teacher or adult perspective.
Yeah. If you want to go to the next one.
Yeah, before we move on to the last slide, I want to uplift what Lynn said about conflict resolution in case folks didn't see it in the chat. But one thing that would be really good is to get a neutral perspective. So an activist that you're connected to, maybe someone you're relationship building with through these series that's from a different state. That might be a good person to bring in and see if they're willing to do some conflict resolution. So thanks for that, Lynn. All right, Luca.
Yeah, so this is basically the end. We're just going to briefly go through the 5 main keys to success again. So if you could just quick through them pretty quickly. So leadership structure, transparent task management, effortless communication, regular follow-up, and morale boosting. So these are all very essential, integral things to team management. And it's also important to remember the recruitment things we talked about at the beginning. And that's basically it. If you want to go to the next slide, we're going to do a quick debrief, and I think Sonia is going to handle that.
Yep, so guys, feel free to unmute yourself and just share out But let's start with, after you got this presentation, what part do you think will be the most difficult thing about managing the team? And if you already have a long-standing team, what is the most difficult for you? So feel free to just unmute yourself.
I mean, this is really useful, and I don't have a team yet, but hopefully this year I'll be able to kind of create one. And I think what's going to be hard probably is recruiting and finding enough people to, you know, be able to do everything I want to do. So like creating events and still having good communication skills, and just, so I think recruiting and having enough people to accomplish everything is going to be the hardest part. And I do think that something that's going to be a bit easier is going to be once I have a specific group or like people to help me. I think it's going to be much easier to accomplish things together. And I do think that communication isn't going to be a major obstacle for me, at least not me personally or my team, hopefully. And I think also something that I might need to work on, or that my team might need to work on, would be just trying to split the work evenly and not like overloading myself or overloading others. I mean, that also kind of goes with communication, which I think I would be good at, and trying to be clear, but not trying to be clear and just getting and like putting all the work on myself, or just kind of not like being too bossy or organizing everything without listening to others. So it's kind of like a different side of communication, with like communicating and being clear about what's the goal and like what I can do, but not just what I can do, and also what they can do or what my team can do to help as a whole, if that makes sense. It's kind of, yeah.
Absolutely, those are important. And in the chat, I see that someone else said that not overloading yourself is going to be hard, and it's key. Always remember to check in with yourself, and it's okay if you can't do 5 million things at once, because we are human, and that's not how we're made to be. So it's very important to have a good team, or just sometimes giving yourself a break. Anything else, or maybe who wants to share what will come the easiest?
If I may add to the first question, I think it's kind of difficult to like maintain that like egalitarian collaborative like space while also being like productive, and finding a way how you can kind of be collaborative and like productive at the same time. So yeah.
Definitely. Anyone else?
I have a quick thing to add. Oh, my dog is whining. So I think Avery said this a few weeks ago during one of like the other presentations. We were talking about burnout on a panel, and she was like, if you burn out, like you're not benefiting the movement or something. She was like, you are the movement. Anyways, like the point is like, if you burn out, like if you do too much, you can end up hurting the movement. So you just want to make sure that, yeah, delegating tasks is like super important. And I hope you guys don't burn out, because I've gone through that a few times. It's not fun. It's not fun for your mental health, and it's not fun for other group members. So think about
It's not
yourself.
fun at all. Yeah, and because anything else, sometimes it is important to plug off your social media, because definitely for me, when most of my feed is activism based, it's really important, because it's very hard, because you in the morning you can see 30 different activist points. So maybe not check your phone in the beginning, maybe something else just to keep yourself moving. And Avery. Yeah, and Avery is definitely great. And she gave us almost a month of break and steps. Because think about like your parents get break at work, vacation, right? At school, you get summer breaks. Why not get yourself a break in activist space? So also, like, what elements do you have to work on to make your team perfect? Even though there isn't such a thing as a perfect team, but still, what do you think you should work on? Anyone wants to share? And you always can do, yeah, communication, collaboration, definitely. There's also,
So key. I just, yeah, wanted to plus one that as well.
yeah, and there's always, you can go stronger, higher, faster. So there is so much, so there's so much room to kind of develop yourself, develop your skills. Keep coming to YCC and YAP events to learn more skills, because you can never have too little skills when it comes to leadership.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
So I think these challenges like are on the money, right? Like these are the challenges that people typically struggle with, like recruiting, getting enough people to delegate the tasks, right? And keep the movement going. Another thing that I was thinking about as y'all were talking about taking breaks is like, if there's also a way to create like a campaign structure where like some folks are taking a break while others are doing the work, and then you switch. And so that takes like a whole lot of coordination, right? That even the most effective organizers still haven't perfected. So I think there's a lot of great insight, and a lot of you have started your own team. So like I'd love to pass it on to everyone else on this call. How have you successfully been able to, what are some best practices that you found that have allowed you to recruit a ton of people, delegate tasks productively and effectively, and also balance that egalitarian mindset with productivity? So if you can hop off of mute or put yourself in the chat, that'd be great.
Something that my team shared with our breakout group is what we've found really successful in recruiting people and just like kind of making a name for ourselves is finding something that is publicizable, if that's even a word. Just because sometimes what we're focusing on is very niche, but like finding a way to like make it more general, I guess. So what we are doing is our organization is based on education reform and like mainly focusing on curriculum reform and stuff like that. And so what we started doing was we started an Instagram series called What School Didn't Teach You. And each post, it's going over like a person's accomplishments that aren't talked about a lot in school for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of their race or because of their sexuality or their gender or anything like that. If it was ever overshadowed, we kind of bring a light to that. And that is something that's able to be shared to a lot of people. And it just brings in traction to our movement because it's something that people find valuable.
And I just want to say great use of a narrative strategy there, right? I think that highlights just how important narratives are and messaging is. Great example.
Something we do at DC Teens Action is for any task that is time sensitive, we always make sure there's at least 2 people who are able to do that task. So like, for example, we have, instead of having one graphic designer, we have a team of several graphic designers, or instead of having one Spanish translator, we have 2, so that if it's something where like, oh, we need to post about this tonight, or oh, like something's coming up, like there ideally like it's always someone available. Or if someone who is scheduled to do something or has agreed to do something has something come up, there's usually like a backup person, even if there's not like 2 people sharing the same position. It could be just that there's someone in a completely different position who has that same ability or skill set and like can fill in occasionally. It like puts less pressure on people.
How about the topic of recruiting? I think one of the things that I've encountered in my work is just how nerve-wracking it is for people to like go out of their comfort zone, talk to people. So can we dive into a little bit of those challenges and how people have overcome those challenges?
I feel like with recruiting, people are going to join something if you find, like, if you make something like relatable to others. Because I feel like I would, if I like relate to someone and what they're like, what they're doing in their movement within schools and things, then I'm definitely going to see, like, it's going to make me more interested about the club and the organization that's going on. And then also with, you know, like social media, obviously posting things, but also being a part of other groups. I have like, and other schools, other friends that were able to share those, and the word obviously like gets out sooner or later. But yeah, those are just different ways.
I can also share on that, even though it can sound a bit mean, but with your activism, yes, you are impacting so many people, but about you as a personality, not as many people care. So really because I know as a teenager, it's really hard to kind of put yourself out there, have a million stories, reach out to people. But really, if you don't reach out, no one is going to find out about you or your organization. So think about what is more important for you, kind of you reaching out and being embarrassed, or you promoting your movement and actually making an impact. And if it's a second one, you shouldn't care about any problems reaching out or any other kind of embarrassment teenage moments.
I want to push back a little bit on that, Sonia. I know, I think, I agree with you 100%. Like sometimes, and I tell myself that too when I get social anxiety. Like everyone gets social anxiety. Like let's be real about that, right? Like the only person I know that doesn't get social anxiety is my husband, and he's like the weirdest human being on the planet. Like he'll just go into a people he doesn't know, just say hi, hello, and not feel weird about it at all. And that he's like an alien. So let's just put that out there. Like social anxiety is real, right? It is something that we all thanks, Luca. Something that we all most of us experience, right? And so anyone want to be vulnerable about their experience with that? I'm happy to talk about that myself. I mean, I think thanks to Wendy here, she got me involved in activism when I was 12, and I dived right into talking to random people about I had some sound bites. So I practiced some sound bites, and I would go stand on street corners and talk about girls' education. And because I was well practiced, it wasn't that that kind of helped me. So role play, I think, is really important. That's why we did role play today. But how have other folks managed that? How have you? It's easy to say like the movement is more important than my personal feelings, but it's harder to like do something, So I'd love to hear some stories about how people have tangibly overcome that social anxiety aspect. So Lily says social media is a great tool because of that sense of anonymity, 100%. But again, social media, I really want to encourage folks to consider social media as like an ancillary thing, as opposed to like the primary way of you connecting and building power. Because again, that is really all about those relationships and the one-to-ones. So, and then Luca, you want to elaborate on what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, at first I founded this like mentorship program for ESOL students at Sligo Middle School in Maryland. And at first, like that was the first project I ever did. So I was like, okay, this is kind of scary. Like I've never pitched anything to anyone before. Like I don't really want to talk about it. Like I just want to do it. But like after a while, like I started practicing with my mom. I just started like going through it. I was like, okay, you create like a mission statement. You really emphasize like practicing like how you want to attract people to the movement, really saying why you're doing it and why you're passionate about it. And if you just like keep repeating that, it just becomes natural and kind of like ingrained in your memory. And then you can go up on stage and do it. And like the first time I went up on stage and did it, I freaked up really bad. Like I didn't even like, I was like, but then the next time I did it, I was fine. I kept talking. It's really about practice. So practice with family and friends and you'll be fine.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah. Mess up with family, you know. They're going to love you anyway. Lulit also, you know, yeah, again, kind of going off of what Luca was saying, start with a trusted buddy that, you know, it's a safe space. And have your friends and family be a sounding board, you know, have those practice those sound bites so that it comes, because when you have these sound bites, it'll come to you more easily than you realize when you actually go out and start pitching your project to people. So does anyone have any questions about recruiting, any lingering anxieties that they want to address and that we can kind of you know, work through?
If
Yeah.
I may add something.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
All right. So like again, I was kind of hesitant from like saying what I'm about to say, but just kind of giving yourself credit for all the like good information that you're putting out rather than like doubting yourself because of all the like little stutters or what you may think is not really, you know, helping. So I think that's kind of like important. Just like acknowledge what you're doing and like I guess give yourself credit.
Yeah, that really dovetails very nicely to Lily uplifting Zoe's point a while back. Like, don't forget that you're an expert, right? You've been doing this work. And so, you know, I've probably stuttered like 5 million times. And I've noticed that in this, like me facilitating this, like, oh my God, like I can't get the words out, I can't speak. And I could easily be like, you know, and I'm stuttering right now just thinking about how embarrassing that was for me. And you just have to remember, if you're an authority, if you speak with authority, if you lean back into that authority, that that people are not going to remember like the fact that you said you know, accountability wrong, you know, or they're just not. So so yeah, thanks for Luca, Bad, Lily, and Zoe kind of uplifting that expertise point.
Yeah, a couple of things also. So clearly I have a strong accent. So it went like it was 2 years until I was comfortable saying, and it's like, oh yeah, I can't pronounce some things, literally cannot. And it went through like bullying in middle school because of my accent, but not like I don't care because literally I know 3 languages. So that's my thing, you know. So definitely like give yourself credit, and also to what Lucabet said, I feel like it's Avery, thanks. And also I feel like it's very important because often people think that activism is a free thing, and you have to spend 24/7 just doing this thing. But as a student activist, you can get SSL hours, right? So it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm here dedicating my whole entire time, my whole entire life, and not getting anything back. So you should find those little things that encourage you as you move on. And sometimes it can be real change in your community. Sometimes it can be SSL hours. Sometimes it can be other things. And as you grow up, you can make it your job. So it's not just your free spending and like giving yourself out there but not getting anything back. And that's why it's important to have buddies around, because if you have a great cohort of people you love, that definitely, and you can definitely support each other and exchange things between each other, some problems, some things you're scared about, and it's totally fine. Like me and Luca went over 2 times over this presentation before actually giving it to you, and we're still like stuttering, so it's absolutely okay.
Yeah, Sonia, those are great points. So yeah, I think we're done. We're almost at 5, so we ended a bit early. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming. It was really great having you here. I really enjoyed my breakout room and giving some suggestions to young people with projects. And I've actually learned a lot from delivering this presentation about how to learn presentations and about how to modify leadership structures in my organizations. So yeah, thank you all for coming. We hope to see you at the next one, and we will send out these slides in the follow-up email, and there's some resources that we mentioned throughout the presentation. And I think that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much. And
One thing I want to say about what's in the resources, so I linked tutorial, like really quick tutorial videos for Trello, Asana, and Slack. So if you're unfamiliar with these tools, check out those videos. I highly recommend using all or some of them. But yeah, It was great having you all. If folks want to stick around, if you have any questions, I'll be here. Maybe other folks with the YCC team might stick around as well. But yeah, thanks for everyone's great energy. Luca, did you have anything else you wanted to share? I just want to clarify
No,
the
that's it. You're good.
Okay. And then if facilitators want to stick around as well, we'd love your feedback. So thank you, everyone. See you at the next one next Sunday. It's all about event planning and publicity. It's going to be a really good one. So we'll send all of that stuff to your inbox.